Hey everybody, I'm back. So Kite asked, says my Maya shut down accidentally so that I lost my file. Professor, I lost my file. It shut down suddenly. How can I recover it? So let's talk about that. This is actually a really good learning lesson. So my first question is, did you save it? Had you saved it at any point during the process? Because I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. Maya is a jerk. And if it can crash and make you lose all your files, it will. It loves to do it. Loves it. Okay, so the first thing you need to do whenever you start modeling, and so this was a little low poly character that I drew, and we're going to talk about this. Okay, so I am actually going to save this guy. I'm going to save him. Okay, and then I'm going to open up a new scene. We're going to start from scratch. Okay. So the first thing you want to do, so there are a number of things you can do. I'm not going to get into it, but you can set Maya to autosave. Once you save, and it'll do incrementive saves. It'll save like every 20, 30 seconds, or every 10 minutes. You can set it to do that, and it will start saving. You can have it save 10, 20, whatever files. Hey Kite, so we're going to go over this. It's fine that you lost it. It's actually a really good learning experience. So the first time it happens, it's a freebie. Just make me a cube. Just try and make a really quick character and just submit it. But you always want to save it. So I'm going to go to File, Save Scene. And I'm dumb dude. Is that what I called it? Gummy dude. So I'm going to name it Gumdrop Dude. Gumdrop _ dude, because it just looks better. And 001. So a lot of times I like to number my saves. So this is Gumdrop Dude 001, and I'm going to hit save. So we just saved that now. So now if Maya crashes for some reason, I've at least got a saved file with nothing in it, but at least that's a start. And so what I like to do is periodically I'll hit Control Save, Control S saves. So every time I hit Control S, it'll save my file. And that way, whenever I do something that seems important, I can hit Control S and I've saved that revision. Another thing that I like to do, and I'm going to show you right now, I'm going to hit spacebar. I'm going to import my image planes. If I can remember where I saved these fellas. Front view here. And I'm going to go into the side panel and save import my side view. Okay, so I've saved those two. So I've got those two imported. First, I'm going to place them where I want them. Scale them up a little bit. Here in the front view, I'm going to look at him. So I want his feet to kind of match roughly the bottom. And I want to center as close as I can. So I drew these purposely a little bit scalumpus. I want to put it as close as I can to centered his body on here. So he's got one arm sticking out. That's always to trick my students into modeling with symmetry. It's kind of show one arm down, one arm up. People will model him like that. But what we really want to do is just model the whole character symmetrically. And so this was a really quick sketch I did. I've been using this Gumdrop Dude for like several years in my classes, and he's served me well. So he's a good little guy. So there he is on the front view, looks pretty good. The side view doesn't matter as much. The side's going to be wherever he is. But we'll center him a little bit just to make us feel better. And now I'm going to move him out of the way. Because they get in the way of my model if I leave them here centered. Like I could have I've seen people model like this before, where they've got the front and the side kind of centered, and you can see how it starts to create like the 3D image. But I don't like to model that way because my image planes just get in the way of my maneuvering. So I like to just push the side view out to the side and the front view off to the back. That way I've got all this clean space to make my model in. So now that I've done that, I can hit Control S, So that'll save my file, right? So now if Maya crashes, I've got it saved to this point. Wherever I hit Control S, it's saved. But Maya is also a big jerk in that sometimes its files like to get corrupted. So while I was working at Disney, Maya was our game engine, so it had third-party software kind of connected to it and intertwined. So Maya was constantly crashing, and then it was constantly getting corrupt as well. And, you know, without fail, if I ever worked for like an hour or 2 hours and I didn't save versions, without fail, it would crash. And if I used the incremental saves, it did not play well with the third-party software either, and that caused crashes and that caused issues. And so while incremental save is probably pretty safe to use, it's now become an aversion to me that I never use it. So when I get to this point, whenever I get to somewhere where I feel like, you know what, I don't want to lose my work, this is kind of a milestone, a checkpoint. I've got my image planes set up. I don't want to lose that. So I will actually just hit File, Save As, Save Scene As, and I will just take that Gumdrop Dude 001 that I created, and I will just add a 2 to it. And now I know even if my file is corrupted, I can just go to the file before that and use it. And that's just a habit that I've developed over the years. And so typically I will just have gads of versions of my files, and eventually I'll get far enough that I can just delete previous ones, but I'm very manual and meticulous in that. So always be saving your files because you never know when they're going to mess up. So let's start modeling this guy. So for this class, since it's an accelerated course, typically I get into something called subdivision modeling. But since we're just doing low poly art, I'm going to try and avoid that as much as I can. I'm going to try and keep things just as simple as possible. I may get in some tricks that maybe are a little bit more advanced, so take those for what they are. But I'm just going to click on the box here and start with a simple box. I always want to model as simple as possible and keep it as simple as possible the whole time. So this is a simple cube, just like we did with the chair and really the snowman model. So I'm going to go into the side view. I've already, nope, I guess not. Though this is a new scene. So I'm going to click X-ray again so I can see through my cube. And the first thing I'm going to do before I ever add any geometry or add any edge loops or faces, I want to make sure that I've put these vertices and these edges in the best possible place I can. So I'm just going to use the scale and move tool to try and get this box to match the shape of this gumdrop dude's head as close as possible before I do anything else. So before I make it more complicated, I've taken this box as far as I possibly can. If you have any questions while we're going, let me know. I just clicked on the X-ray tool so I could see through this side. And you can see this isn't too bad. This is actually getting pretty close. I think the top of the head is tapered in a little bit, so I'm going to go into vertice mode, taper that in. And then even this here, I can see that the head kind of rotates a little bit. And now, you know, if I move any of these box edges, it's now really not maintaining the shape of this at all. So it's the point where I kind of need to start adding some loops. How do you use X-ray? I'll show you. So here's this box I'm modeling with. So if I click off the X-ray box, you can see it's opaque now and I can't see through it. So now I can't see the reference image behind it. So clicking on this X-ray button just allows me to see through my geometry so I can see what's behind it, and it helps you model. So I'm going to add an edge loop to this box now so I can try to maintain the curve of this face that I've lost by moving this, scaling this box. So I'm just going to go into edge mode by right-clicking, hitting edge, and I'm going to select one of these edges. Now if I hit Control, right-click, and here you see this little hot box pops up with all these options that I can mouse over. I'm going to go to Edge Ring Utilities, and then go to Edge Ring and Split and let go. And it will add an edge ring. It'll add an edge loop to the center of my box. So now I have another edge loop here in my box. And I want to make sure that I move this edge loop and all the rest of the geometry as far as I possibly can, the closest to optimal as possible before I go and do anything else. So I'm going to marquee over this. I'm just going to slide it out so I can start to get that shape again of this beautiful gumdrop dude. And you can see, like, even just super simple, it's actually starting to get the shape I want on a very rudimentary level. So I'm keeping it just as close as possible. You see up here on the top of the head, I think I need to shrink that down a little bit still. And here at the center of the head, it kind of shrunk in. I'm going to pull that out. And the same with the bottom of the chin. Just going to move it out a little bit, move it up a little bit. Checking on the side view. It's always going from front to side, front to side. And this is why when you guys do create your low poly character, you want to have a good front view and you want to have a good side view because it makes modeling a million times easier. So this is looking kind of close, I guess. Adjust these pieces slightly. Okay, and this is where I'm going to cheat a little bit. This is where I'm going to introduce a tool that I promised I wouldn't, but I'm going to smooth this whole box out a little bit. And to do that, I'm going to show you an example here. So if you take a cube and you add subdivision so it averages all the side, it'll actually start to create a sphere. So I'm going to do that. I'm just going to show it to you. This is creating subdivisions. It's automatically generating geometry and doubling or quadrupling the size of it. So if I go to Mesh, Smooth, I'm going to click on the little box. So you can see the subdivision level. It's adding one level of subdivisions, and I hit Apply. You can see it actually kind of turns that cube into a sphere because it added an edge loop down the middle and down the side and around its belt, and then it smoothed it. Thanks, awesome boy. Great. Okay, so now I want to, now I'm going to show you how I can like smooth that a little bit more. Essentially, it's like, it's generating a curve. So if I were to smooth this one more subdivision, go to my channel box here. If I smooth it one more subdivision, you'll see it'll go smoother. And if I go to third, you can see it's very polygon heavy, but it's very smooth. It's getting closer to a sphere from that box that it was. So I'm going to use this smoothing cheat to get my head to look a little bit more like I want it to. Yeah, awesome boy. Thanks for following. Okay. So we're gonna scroll through that poly smooth face again and show you. So that's level 2. Oops. Doing what I want. So there's level 2, level 1, and 0 brings it back to a cube. Okay, so what we need to pay attention though is our polygon, our poly count. So I'm going to turn that on right now. So I'm going to turn on my poly count so that we can see what our try count is. Because remember, when we create these low poly characters, the try limit is sub 1,000. That means less than 1,000 tries or 900 tries. That's pretty low. So we want to be very careful with how many polygons, how many edges, and how many vertices we have, because each vertice adds to the try count, each edge adds to the try count, each face adds to the try count. So we're going to turn on our poly count. So we're going to go to Display, Heads Up Display. Poly count. So there's this poly count checkbox right here under Heads Up Display. We're going to click that, and now up here it shows us how many faces, tries, and edges we have. Tries is the important one. We have 32 in our scene right now in our viewport. If I actually delete that extra cube we created, now we only have 20 tries. So this head that I've created so far is 20 triangles. So you can see they add up pretty fast. But what I want to do is subdivide this head just one time so that it will get a smoother shape for me. I actually could use this shape and keep him super, super boxy, which I'm tempted to do. But maybe we could talk about that later. So let's soften this. We've gone to mesh tools. We can actually soften these edges. See how these have these sharp 90-degree angles? Those are called hard edges. And when you're low poly modeling, you have hard edges and you have soft edges. Basically, it's how light reflects off of those corners. And you can actually make it so that the edge isn't very visible, and it'll create the illusion of a softer edge than it really is. And that'll help save on poly count. So if I select this guy and go to Mesh Display, Soften Edge, you can see that now the light kind of reflects off of that edge, and it looks a little bit rounder unless you look at the outside edges of it. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. We're going to smooth this a little bit. So we're going to go to Mesh, Smooth, and we're going to keep this at a subdivision 1. Hit Apply, and you can see that that's really rounded out that shape even more to keep it what we want it to look like. But it also quadrupled the try count. So it went from 20 triangles to 80. So we're already looking at 80 triangles just for the head, this character. And that's okay for how low we're going. But you can see, because we matched up that cube so well, it shrunk a little bit, but the size stayed pretty close to what we wanted it to. So I'm just going to stretch it up. Maybe stretch it out just a pinch. Kind of leave it in this general shape. We can fix this side too. Stretch it out, and now we can go around the edges, and I'm just going to select some of these vertices and just tuck them in. We want our model to be as close to Gumdrop Dude as possible. So this looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and say this is pretty good. Let's look at it from the front side. Always adjusting, always fixing, always tweaking. I want the top of the head to be a little flatter than it is. Slide this hole up. And there we go. There we go. So there's his head. And it matches pretty well with the shape, right? Right. Okay. So if you notice, his head, the gumdrop head, is kind of shaped like a bean. It's got like this bean shape right here, kind of the bend to it. So I did that on purpose. I wanted to kind of duplicate some of the shapes of this character. So if you notice, his torso is actually the same shape, roughly. It's a very similar shape. And I did that so that it would make it faster to model him and make it easier. So anytime you see a shape that is very similar, has kind of the same curves and slope, I could repeat that entire process I did with the head, or I could just say, you know what, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I want to reuse whatever I can. And that's the beauty of using computers to generate geometry and art, is that use computers what they're good for. They're good for deleting information, or sorry, they're good for deleting information too, like your Maya files. But they're also good for copying information. And speaking of copying information, this is probably a good time to save and practice what I preach. So I'm going to do a little save scene as, and call this Gumdrop Dude 003 because I made that head. That seems like a good milestone, and I'm going to duplicate that. So now I'm going to take this head that I created. I'm just going to hit Control D to duplicate it and just slide it on down here to the torso area. And you can see it doesn't match up perfectly yet, but I'm just going to use the scale tool and just scale it out till it about matches its body, and scale it up till it about matches. And you can see, by golly, that it matches pretty darn close. And so the same deal here. I can just grab these outer edges, just marquee over them. Here's the butt shape. You always want to make sure that that is done right. Back and shoulders up here. And this piece, the center, this is where the arm's going to connect. I want to make sure that these are kind of in a good spot so that I can create arms out of those spots. Okay, so that is the clavicle area. We'll call that good. And here's the belly that comes out. We want to make sure that the belly is properly stretched out. So that's from the front view. Let's check our side view. Let's check the front again. Front's looking pretty good. I'm going to stretch this out to match the legs. The shoulders I could bring out just a little bit, but I think it looks pretty good. And notice I just did one side. So this is the problem. I have now broken symmetry. I want to keep this as symmetrical as possible for as long as possible. And I've kind of lost that battle right now. As soon as I start moving one side and not the other, I've broken symmetry. And so it's time to just say goodbye to the bad half. We're just going to delete that. Boom, it's gone. We don't have to worry about it anymore. We're going to leave the head as is for the moment. But the torso, we need to start building some arms. A couple ways we could do that. We could start just extruding a section of the arm. So I just selected those two faces. I'm going to go over that because I didn't explain it well. I can just go into face mode and select these faces. I'm going to hold down Shift to select both of them. Now I could just go to Mesh Tools or Mesh Extrude. And I'm going to hit my Move tool. I could just stretch that out now and start making an arm out of it. That would be pretty easy. That's actually not a bad approach. My biggest problem with, if you look at this arm though, it's kind of a weird shape. It's not very circular at all, which bothers me. So I'm going to hit Control Z and get out of that business. Make sure I didn't duplicate that. I'm going to hit Save. I like using primitives as much as possible when I have a nice round shape. So that's what I'm going to do. So we have this torso here and the leg. So I'm going to start building this arm up here. So to do that, I'm going to select a cylinder. You can see by default, the cylinder is very high poly. I mean, just selecting this thing is 80 triangles. Surprised that's all it is. Yeah, because it's whatever you select. So this is an 80 triangle cylinder. That's ridiculous. So if you look at its subdivision axis, it's got 20 subdivisions. I'm going to lower that to 6. I'm going to make this nice and low poly. And I don't need these caps on here. These are just adding to my poly count as well. So you can see I went from 80 to 24. And if I get rid of those caps, I'm just going to go into face mode and grab the center piece. Now, if I hold Shift and marquee over the whole thing, it deselects whatever you had selected and selects what wasn't selected. If that makes sense. I'm going to delete the caps on that. Now that I've gone from 80 triangles originally down to 12. So this is now a 12 triangle arm. Much better. I'm going to hold down, rotate, hold down J to snap it to 90 degrees. Boom, boom. Now I have my image, my front image that I can use as a guide. So I'm going to make the shoulder section about the right size. And then I'm just going to hold down, grab these vertices on this end and just scale down to the wrist size. It's got this narrow little wrist on this guy. And from this side, I'm going to go from the side view and make sure it's kind of this weird shape. I don't know what I think about that shape I made this arm, but we're going to just go with it. Slide that back. Close enough. That looks pretty good. So now we have the arm of our character. But I now need to Frankenstein it on. This is the difference. I've always enjoyed the Frankenstein method of modeling characters rather than the box modeling. Because I feel like you can use a lot of Maya's tools like subdivision modeling, smoothing to get rounder shapes faster than it is to like add an edge loop, round it out, and fix it. Like if you notice, this arm is a nice round shape now, and that would have taken me a while to get otherwise. Okay, so I need to now sew this on. So to do that, I need to make a hole in his body first. So I'll just grab these two faces, hit delete. Now that's pretty good. But I need to bridge this gap in between this. And to do that, I'm going to double click this hole that I've made, these edges. You see they make this edge loop around this hole. And I'm going to extrude that out. So I'm going to go to Edit Mesh, Extrude. It's going to hit my Move tool and extrude those edges out a little bit. Now you can see I have... in no better terms, I think this works with the Frankenstein method. I have some extra skin now. My gumdrop dude has a little extra flesh out of his shoulder that I can sew onto his arm to attach it all. And that's what I'm going to do. So first I need to combine these two models so they're the same object. That way they can actually merge together. So I'm going to select them both, shift select, mesh, sorry, I said, there we go. Mesh, I said conform. That was an accident. Mesh combine, boom. Now they are one single object. If I select one, it selects the other. They've just got this gap I need to fill. So I'm going to use a tool called Target Weld if I can find it. Where are you, Target Weld? Right up here. So if I hold down Shift and right click over my object, up top here, there's this little Target Weld clip button. Okay, so what this does is it allows you to target two vertices and weld them together so they become one. So I'm going to select this one that I want to move over, and I'm just going to drag it, click on it, drag it over here to this other one, let go, and it snaps over to it and it welds. Just like welding metal, I guess, or flush together. And I'm going to do that to all of these on this arm. Select one of them, drag it over to the next corresponding one, let go, and it welds on. Weld, weld, weld. Magic. And just like that, his arm's connected. Now I think it needs a little work. It needs a little tweaking to make it, like I could sit and adjust these vertices to make them match up a little better. One of the nice thing is if you select a vertex and you hold down C, you can actually slide it along a path. But I'm not going to worry about this stuff too much right now. One of the things you'll notice is these hard edges. Hard edges on here and hard edges on the arm. We want soft edges. Sometimes that's a style in a game design, but we're just going to select the whole thing. Mesh display, soften edge. Now the whole thing's softened. And it looks smoother even though it's low poly. All right, so we're cruising along now. But here's a good tip. So we talked about finding references of our characters in a T-pose. I'm holding out my arms. But we want the character to be symmetrical and straight ahead. Because it was just like we talked about earlier with the torso. It's it's actually infinitely easier to only have to really model one side of a character and have it automatically be symmetrical in the other. Otherwise, it's like drawing a perfect face and drawing one eyeball, then drawing the other eyeball exactly like the other eyeball and going back and forth. We have computers. And so they can do all this for us. They can make it symmetrical. So here's one of the neat things about Maya. I can grab this torso right here, and I'm going to make sure that the pivot, which you see is centered, it's off to the side. I want to set that to 0, 0, 0. So I'm going to hold down D and X and middle mouse drag over the origin so that this will be at 0, 0, 0. And so now I can scale this thing on -1 and make a duplicate of it. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So I'm going to hit Edit, Duplicate Special. I'm going to click on the little box here, and it'll pop up a little dialog box. And I have a choice here. I can make a copy of it, which would just be just like hitting Control D. It'll just make a copy of whatever you've selected. Or I can make an instance. And an instance is just like it sounds. It's a replica of that previous object, and whatever happens to that previous object happens to the instance or happens to the replica. And the only difference is that we're going to change here is on X, we're going to scale it to -1. So it's a mirrored copy version of itself, but it's an instance. So anything we do to the right side happens to the left side. So we can see the model as a whole object in its entirety, not just half of it. So I'm going to hit apply on that because it's already set to -1. And you can see it pops out a duplicate of itself on the other side. Okay, so now if you look at this, I can select this side, and if I edit any of its vertices, you can see they highlight on the other side as well. So you can see if I grab this shoulder piece up here and move it up, it moves up on both sides. This makes modeling a lot easier. If I need to add an edge loop on its arm so that it animates properly and it can bend, if I go to Edge Ring Utilities and Edge Ring and Split, you can see it adds one on the other side as well. It's super awesome. So now we're cruising on our Gumdrop Dude character. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add a leg to him. We're going to do the same thing we did to the arm. In fact, if we want to play Frankenstein still, what we can do, and I'm just going to do this anyway, I just hit Control D and created a duplicate of its arm up there. And actually, this is Maya. And I'm going to select that arm and shift click over the whole thing so I can duplicate the rest of the body. And I'm just going to play off of our Frankenstein. If I hit modify center pivot, it'll actually center the pivot back onto this piece. And we're just going to turn this arm into a leg. We're just going to rotate it over, bring it down to the body, and we'll just figure out how to do this because it'll be easier. In theory, it's easier. I'm going to delete that edge around the knee. It might get in my way. We're going to keep it simple. All right, so we're just going to pull this leg over to the thigh area, I guess you could call it. And this ankle up here. Okay, you know what? That looks all right. Doesn't look too bad. Let's go to the side view. Whatever gets us there faster, am I right? Okay. Scale this out. Because for some reason, that's what his leg looks like. I don't know. I guess I did. Okay, so we're going to add the knee back in now so that we can maintain this shape of the bottom half. Scale that down, out a little bit. Okay. Feeling pretty good. Feeling pretty good. This is our little Poly character. He's coming along. He is coming along. Okay, so now we need to do some more Frankensteining. And for this part, I'm going to actually have to cut. I'm going to have to do some cutting here. I don't like to, but I'm going to have to. Okay, so I am going to add an edge loop to this guy. Let's decide where we want to do it. I'm gonna add a loop right here. So we're going to introduce you to a new tool. So we've done the split ring tool. We've done the add edge loop tool before, and we're going to do another one called the multi-cut tool. We'll take notes on this. The multi-cut tool is to cut edges wherever you want. And so I'm going to hold down Shift, right click. See my multi-cut tool right here. My guess is it's under Edit Mesh or Mesh. Mesh Tools. There it is. Multi-cut tool. It's under Mesh Tools. Insert Edge Loop is there too. You've got a bunch of other ones. Offset Edge Loop tool. Play with those tools. See what they do. But we're going to use this multi-cut tool. It looks like a scalpel. And I am just going to drag along this edge over to that center edge. And I am just going to cut through the bottom of them because I want to keep, this sounds awful, but I want him to have this space between his thighs. That actually doesn't sound that bad. So that gives me this nice area here to cut off and connect his legs. If it sounds creepy. Okay, so I'm gonna move this one up a little bit. Okay, this is looking pretty good. This is looking pretty good. So I think what I'm actually gonna do is instead of creating that extra skin, I'm just gonna snap this leg right up into it. We'll see how it works. So we're gonna select the body with the arm connected and the leg, and we're gonna combine these into one piece again. So watch what happens to the mirrored side. Okay, since we're adding a whole new piece that doesn't exist over here, let's see how Maya likes that. Maybe we should save first. Hit Control Save just in case, because Maya likes to crash. And we're gonna go Mesh, Combine. Oh, it didn't like it. The instance disappeared. The instance said, nope, sorry, I'm out of here. No way. A Manu Bagel, thanks for the follow. Okay, so let's connect this, shall we? Let's connect this all. So do you remember what tool we used? If you guessed the target weld tool, you would guess right. Okay, so we're gonna target weld this on. It looks like it's, with my 6-sided leg, it looks like it's gonna fit just right. All right, so I'm gonna hold down Shift, go to target weld tool, right click. I got my target weld selected. We're just gonna start snapping. Gonna weld these targets. Gonna weld these vertices like you do. Snapping them right. Oh, whoa, I messed it up. Look at that. Oh, I'm dangerous. Okay, so I totally messed it up. Let's try and unmess it up. Okay, let's try this again. We're going leg to body. Leg to body. Target weld. You mess up, Control Z is a masterful thing. Target weld. Target weld. And target weld. Yay! Okay. Looking pretty good. Looking pretty good. I do say so myself. Okay. But we have this weird line right here. Remember those hard edges we talked about? Let's try double clicking that. Double click that. And we will just go to mesh display, soften edge. Oh, and it's so soft. So currently we are sitting at 200 triangles. So we're doing pretty good. We're keeping it well below our 900 limit, or that's our plan anyway. But the things that get expensive is anything that requires animation, which means this single loop around the elbow probably isn't enough for good animations. It'll get the job done, but it'll pinch kind of funny. It'll pinch like a tin can. It'll squish in the middle. So we're probably gonna have to fix that. In fact, here I can probably show you exactly what it'll do. So I'm gonna actually move the pivot on this object over to the elbow. So we'll show you why it needs more geometry. Because if I have a joint right there to do any kind of animation, this is what it's gonna look like. Right? That does not look good. If he tries to flex his muscles, his bicep is just gonna squish, and we don't want that. We'll worry about that later, though. We'll worry about that later. That's not a big deal. That's like a future thing for us to worry about. Okay, but what does he need now? So let's do that duplicate special again. So you can see every time you combine the objects, it centers its pivot. So I'm going to hold down D and X and snap it back to 0, 0, 0. And we're going to do that instance duplicate special again. Hit apply, boom. And you can see it popped over to the other side. So he's feeling pretty good. He's feeling like our little gumdrop guy should, right? Okay, class, any suggestions on what we should do? Let's do a vote. Should we do a neck, feet, or hands? Those are kind of the last three things to do on this guy before we sew them all back together. I'll wait. I can wait all night. Extra points for Gloria. She said neck. All right. Jen Sean, extra points for you too. Brownie points. Those are called participation points. I know you're here now. And you're not just ignoring me. Okay, so let's try something new with the neck. All right. So what we could do, we could do a couple things. Okay, let's look at this a couple different ways. So we could do is just shove shove a cylinder up there and make a neck. We could lower the subdivisions on that to maybe 8 to make it round. We could also lower it to 6 because that's what we had on everything else. So why not do that here as well? And that would work. I think we could sew it all on just the same. Let's try doing something different though, just for different sake. Oh, Aaron said hands, please. We're gonna do hands next. You got it. Okay, so I'm gonna try something here. On this, I'm going to select all 4 of these polygons and I'm going to extrude them. I'm going to create an extrusion and just scale it in. And we're going to try and make a neck out of this. Let's see if it'll work. Maybe I'll mess it up, but we'll see. So I'm going to hold down Shift, right click, and extrude face. And then you have this extrude tool that comes out. It's very similar to the move tool, but it moves it based on the shape of the object, not on the direction. So if I actually just pull this thing out, you can see it extrudes a weird shape. That's not exactly what I want. So if I go to my move tool, it'll actually center it. And if I go to my scale, it'll do the same. So I'm going to scale it in and then move it back into the position that face was in. And this might mess it up a little. We're just going to do it. We're going to do it and then we're going to fix it. So we change the shape of that neck. I'm going to move this extrusion in that I shrunk in. about where that neck goes, and I'm going to do another extrude face. We're going to pull that down into the body. But we need to sew it all in. We need to Frankenstein all this as well. So let's see how this turned out. Looks a little funny. There's a lot of stuff I don't like about it, but let's see if we can fix it and make this thing better. And so you notice, yeah, I don't know. Let's see if I can do this though. A lot of modeling is messing stuff up and then fixing it, messing it up and fixing it, messing it up and fixing it, and trying to mess it up right the first time so you don't have to fix it in as much. But this is good. This is good for you guys to see. When you soften it, it's actually not too bad. But I want to start adjusting these. And I could adjust both sides at the same time. Not that big a deal. To keep it symmetrical, or I could, delete it. Yeah, we'll even it all on out. Or I could delete one side and make an instance like we had before. But that seemed to work okay. I seem to be able to fix that out without too much issue. That actually doesn't look too bad. My golly, I thought I was going to mess that up for sure. Okay, it didn't mess up. All right, so let's fix this bit. So this part of the neck, we want to go right about here. And then you notice it kind of tapers in. We want to match the, we want to match our drawings as much as possible. So his neck kind of tapers in a little bit. Okay, yeah, I like it. I like it. What do you guys think? Maybe? All right. So now we need the whole neck to fit here. This is a big mess. All right, so look at this. We got these little hotkey help here. If you select an object and hit Shift-I, that isolates that single object so that you can look around all around it without being annoyed by all the other geometry you have in your scene. This is especially helpful when a character gets really complex or you have a scene in Maya that is complex and you really need to be able to 360-degree look around something and say delete the edges off the bottom of the neck like you do. Am I right? Okay. So let's hit Shift-I again so we can see what we're doing here. And basically, I need to cut a hole out here. So I'm gonna, let's see, how do I want to do this? I could do this in several different ways. You know what? I'm gonna do the, no. To establish the license close and then restart this product. When's the last time I hit Control S? Will it let? It won't even let me save. It won't even let me save. Okay, I'm going to try and fix it. Give me a moment. Maya, please. So here's what we're going to do. So here's the deal. So I have to go through the VPN at the University of Utah. And it messes up my upload speed for Twitch. And so this is a problem because my upload speeds are so low. Let me try it. Yeah, let me try. This is awesome. This is a cruel, cruel thing. They really stick it to you if you don't have a license. Because I do have a license. Oh no. That's not too bad. That's not too bad, is it? Okay, are you guys all watching? Oh, is everybody gone now? What a bummer. Hey, look. Wait. Ah, ha, ha. No, this is the wrong one. Wait. We'll exit and, okay, please save your work. File save then. We did it. We did it, my friends. We did it. We fooled Maya. Actually, they don't really fool. Maya graciously allowed me to keep my files. So this is a good lesson for you guys. Save often, save frequently. Actually, because I'd saved, I actually didn't lose that much work. So always save. In fact, let's go save an increment. You're now on 004. Done and done. Okay, so we have this neck. We were trying to figure out how to do this neck. This necky neck. Okay, so we decided to do the old flesh thing. That's what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna select, because this isn't a fair, I'm just select some of these edges, pull them up. This is what we will use to target weld to the side of this face. I really need to delete side of the body, this side of the body, side of the head, because this is all going to be merged now. Make sure we got the whole thing. So I just marqueed over half of the head. And you can see half of the, I missed half of the neck. I have to go back in and strategically, I'm like a Maya surgeon here. Cut that off. Now we're going to select the whole thing, mesh, combine, boom. We did it. Okay, now's the fun part. We're going to do some more target welding. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Target weld, drag, drop. Drag, drop. Say drag and drop. Drag and drop. Drag and drop. Oh, yeah. That does not look too shabby. So you can see those hard edges here. We want to get rid of those once again. Mesh display, a soften edge, boom bitty boom. Okay. Did somebody say they wanted us to make hands next? Somebody did. So I'm going to center this. So it's good for me to repeat this stuff. Hold down D, hold down X, middle mouse at 000. Edit, duplicate, special, like you do. Hit apply, boom. And look at that. This should bother you. That neck is not lined up. That is the saddest thing I've ever seen. So let's line this up. So I'm going to go into vertice mode. And I'm going to select the offended vertice. Hold down X, that's snap to grid. Snap this to the center. That means it snaps to 000. It's not welding. It's just putting those on top of each other, those twin sides. One side moves, the other side moves. Snap it at 0. Snap, snap. Perfect. All right, gumdrop dude is looking legit. Okay, so the hands seem the most difficult to make. In a couple days, as a class, we're actually going to model a hand, like, you know, a regular hand with 5 fingers. Sorry about my green screen. It's weird. We're going to live with it. But because this is a very low poly character, which he's 324 polys right now, going strong. We're going to keep him like under 5, maybe. What we're going to do is a mitt and a thumb. Because when you're doing really low poly stuff, it's a lot cheaper. A lot of times in really low poly games that are like first-person shooters, they'll have like the 3 fingers sewn together and a trigger finger. Because it's cheaper. It's more efficient. So that's what we're going to do. So let's model out this hand. We're going to do some extrusion modeling on this one. So let's double click on this whole loop on the wrist and hit extrude edge. Go to our move tool. We're going to stretch that right out. This is going to be the hand in just a few minutes. So let's look at our front view for how far the hand should go. And we're just going to go to the knuckles, the knuckle of the hand, and then we'll do the other half in just a minute. But we don't really have a top-down view of the hand, so I'm going to have to guess. I'm just going to look at my own hand and kind of see what a hand shape is. Kind of looks a little bit like that, I guess. And I'm going to add an edge loop up here. We're going to go to Insert Edge Loop. See, I can just drag that to where I want to drop it. And then I can stretch this out to make it look a little bit more like a hand. Yeah, that's kind of starting to look like a hand. If we even really want to, we can look at how it works over here. That's about where the knuckle is. We can stretch that out a little bit. The whole hand. Okay, so that's the start of the hand. Now we need to mitt this thing out. So you can see right here we have an issue. His hand has a hole in it where we cut it. We want to add that all back in now. So there's a couple ways we could do it. The easiest way, I'm just going to select one of the edges. We're going to do this a couple ways just to show you a couple different tools. Just select one of the edges and you see there's a hole here. There's a hole in my geometry. We can just go to Mesh. Maybe Edit Mesh, maybe Mesh Tools. Where is it? Where's Fill Hole? Does anyone see Fill Hole? It's got to be here somewhere. They're always moving this stuff around on me. Detach, collapse, reorder, flip, extract, poke, wedge. There's so many things. Booleans, combine, smooth, mirror, clip, transfer, clean. Come on, buddy. Mesh Tools, paint, offset, append. We're getting closer. Append will do the trick too. If I can't find Fill Hole, where are you, buddy? This is what I get for modeling late at night. Trying to find it up here in the tools section. Mesh, flip, what? There it is. It's right there under conform. Fill hole, okay? So we click on fill hole and it does exactly what it says it would, except it didn't add an edge loop here in between. It just fills a hole with a polygon. So this polygon, since it doesn't have an edge there, doesn't mean it's only 2 triangles. It's actually, if we select the whole face, it's actually 1, 2, 3. It's actually 8, or actually 4. I mean 4 tries. So we need to cut that. We need to have this looking right. We don't ever want to have any endgons. Endgons are faces with more than 4 sides. So we're going to use our multi-cut tool and we're going to fix that. Boom, boom. Okay, one other way we could have fixed this. There are actually a few different ways. I'm going to delete those. One of those tools that we came across up here, Edit Mesh. Or sorry, Mesh Tools, Append to Polygon. Append to Polygon works as well. So if I click on that tool, it gives you some advice here. It says, click the boundary edge. I didn't read it fast enough. But anyway, you click one of these edges, boom. And then it says the arrows indicate edge direction to finish, press enter. So I select that edge. Now I'm going to select another one, boom. And you can see that it appends that area. And I'm going to hit enter and kind of bridge it up. If I hit G, it'll reset that tool I just used. And I can do the same thing again. Hit enter or W, we'll finish it. I just did the exact same thing 2 different ways. Crap, if you want to see it done again, here's the 3rd way. Too many different ways though, it's going to drive you guys nuts. This is if I select just 2 of the edges like we did before, we can just create a little bit extra flesh here like we do. And then we can go to our target weld tool and we can target weld that together by adding a little extra polygons. So 3 different ways to do the exact darned thing. Fill hole and make one edge seem to be just as fast as any of the other ones, but whatever. Whatever floats your boat, that's what you can do. Let's make some fingers now. This will be the mitt. We're going to keep all our fingers sewn together for this low poly model. In a couple days, we'll actually model a hand. Okay, so let's extrude that out. We look at our side view, we can get those fingers exactly where we want them. About there. And this I'm going to have to eyeball. I'm going to look at my hand to kind of see how it goes. You can see the middle finger kind of goes out further and then the pinkies go out less far. So let's see if I can emulate that a little bit by bringing this one in a little bit over, this one over here, and these ones down a pinch. Guess that's kind of like a hand. Whatever. Okay, good enough. And also this needs to be able to animate. It's probably gonna need more edge loops than I'm willing to give it, but we'll put an edge loop there so that it can bend. And now let's do a thumb. So to do a thumb, I'm gonna select this little cube right here. So we want, a thumb kind of comes out like a triangle. What is this? Is about to exit? Save your work? What are you gonna do? No, it's because I didn't close you. All right, save as dude 5. Because we never closed and opened. Because we never closed and opened Maya, it wanted to cancel on us again because it hates us. So, well, I guess, boom, it shut down on us. Okay, let's open Maya again. Yeah, save early, save often, save frequently, save every second of your life. Save your life. Trust me. Okay. Let's reopen our character like you do. We're going to hurry this up. Takes a minute to warm. Okay, here we go. He's back. He's back. Okay, so we were going to turn this into a thumb. So I'm going to extrude this out like this. Like I said, I want to keep this triangle shape. So I don't need this face. I could just do without. A couple of ways I can get rid of this. But let's just use one of the methods we've all been using that's dear to our heart. It's target weld. Let's just target weld these together. Could collapse edges, but that's stuff we haven't learned yet. Okay, look at that. Look at that. It's starting to be a hand. It's starting to be a mitt. So let's just grab one of these and extrude it out again. This, my friends, is the making of a thumb. And we'll extrude one more time. And then thumbs are really weird things. You'd think the hand lays flat like that, but it actually doesn't. The thumb actually comes down and rotates out slightly. Even when it's super low poly like this, it still does that. Kind of like that. Down just a little bit. So while this isn't perfect, it's not bad. And then as you may have been able to see, reference image, this kind of bends funny. Okay, so that's the hand. That, my friends, is a hand. This guy's coming along. Shouldn't you avoid triangles when modeling? Yes and no, my friend. Yes and no. Yes, when you're trying to make something that's smooth and it's very high poly. When you're doing something low poly, where efficiency and the lack of triangles is extremely important, triangles are okay if they're used infrequently and only when necessary. They'll actually cause issues when smoothed during animations, but a lot of times in low poly, really low poly stuff, they're necessary. So something like that, I would forgive in this kind of situation. I know that we have that discussion all the time at the university because it was the old school. That's the way I was taught too. Avoid triangles, and you would actually get your grade docked when you had triangles. Triangles in themselves aren't bad. It's when they're kind of abused, that's when they're bad. I'm going off on way too much of an explanation. But I guess it depends who you talk to, because I don't think they're that bad. Okay, so let's create a foot for this guy. That'll be the last part that we have to do, and then we can look at your class models. So here's our foot. I'm just going to start with a cube because I'm going to keep my life easy. I like to not complicate my life too much. And we're just going to do the same thing we did with the head. We're going to match it up as closely as possible to the reference image. I'm just moving vertices around like you do. I'm gonna add an edge loop here, insert edge loop where the face would cut in, or where the ankle would connect, so I have enough pieces. Scale the heel down. This is the heel, right? This foot connects to the ankle. This is where the big old goofy foot is gonna be. It looks really weird right now, so I need to fix it. So I'm gonna actually add another edge loop. Insert edge loop. Okay, now I'm going to make this as much as a foot shape as I can. Big toe over here. Smaller toes come over here, and the side of the foot. I think we're playing this by ear. I can't believe this toe. Okay, we're going to do something weird here. Kranich says it looks so easy. I move every single vertex. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to do something weird on this. I'm going to try something out that may work and may not. But I want to smooth this whole thing out. And I want to do it similar to how we did the face. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add, this will make sense later. I just want to try it out. I'm going to add a few edge loops to kind of keep my surfaces intact. So I'm going to add one there. And I think that's all. I think that's all I'm going to do. Okay, let's try this. Let's see if this messes up. I'm going to go select my object, mesh. We're going to smooth it. Boom. Nice. I kind of like it. Kind of like it. Okay. But now it's too heavy. Now it's too heavy, so I'm going to collapse some stuff. This edge right here. Select that whole thing. Delete it. Boom. Delete this one. This one. Just because I can, I'm going to delete this one. This guy on the bottom, it's too much. Edge loops. Looking at my keyboard. Oh, snap. I didn't do that. I'm going to shrink this whole thing down so that I can delete. Yeah. Edge. Like you do. Harden this. Doesn't look weird. Close enough. It kind of looks like a foot. It's kind of weird, but we'll go with it. We're going to go with it. Yeah, we're going to chop that off. And we are now going to perform surgery. We're going to perform surgery and put his foot, attach his foot. Okay, here we go. So to do this, I am going to mesh combine. See, my instance disappears. I want to bring back my instance. I'm going to hold down D and X, snap it to 0, 0, 0. Edit, duplicate special. Boom, like you do. There's my character. And let's do that Frankenstein thing again, where I grab some of his edge loop, extrude the edge, slide it out. Now we have some flesh to work with, and we will just target weld. Except this doesn't match up. It doesn't match up. Okay, it doesn't match up though. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna get rid of the center loop because we can. There we go. Even more low poly. And because we need it, we need this guy. Okay. And then we'll work from there. Okay, back to the target welding. So what we do is we break and we fix and we break and we fix. Can soften all these because they look weird now. All right, so it's a start. That's a good start. Kranik, how are you doing? Okay, so let's combine this guy entirely now. So now if we select the whole body, go to Mesh, Combine. Now he's combined, but he still has this line in between, and that's because he's actually not merged. So I'm going to select Vertice mode and select the whole body. Shift, right-click, Merge Vertices. That will merge that piece to the center, and even though you can still see the full line, we can fix it by double-clicking that edge loop and going to Mesh Display, Soften Edge. Okay. Edit, delete all by type, history. And we can name him Dummy Dude. He has a name. That is it, my friends. So he actually ended up being 600 triangles. So still pretty low. So in the next couple of weeks, we'll UV unwrap him, we'll practice painting, and start working on him. But that is it. That is it, my friends. Any questions from the class?